The moment Raila Amolo Odinga signed a deal with William Ruto about going and supporting him actually to go for the AU seat, there were so many things that were hindering Raila Amolo Odinga from winning that seat. There are so many things that William Ruto himself also had contributed immensely that were preventing Raila Amolo Odinga to become the favorite of the African presidents. But now William Ruto has adjusted his tactics to ensure that he has enabled Raila Amolo Odinga to win the seat. That is going to form the basis of this analysis here today. But kindly, before I do so, if this is the first time you're watching our videos, kindly make sure that you subscribe, like, and comment, because that is the best support you can always give this channel. My name is Abdul Mukoa, and for those who always want to support the channel, my number is always there. You can always come through whenever you can. Now, let me dive into the topic today. Now, Raila Amolo Odinga, going for the AU seat, he had so many factors in hand that he had to consider. One of them is the relationship of Kenya to the rest of the African continent. In that, I mean that the way Kenya relates with that and other nations matters a lot when it comes to the occupation of the AU seat. Therefore, they have to ensure that our international relations, the relationship between Kenya and other countries is good, which, as per my reasoning, Kenya is not bad of when it comes to the relationship between, particularly before William Ruto, the relationship between Kenya and the other African countries has always been good. Has always been good. Actually, most of them. And the thing is, Raila's personal ability, particularly, is the relationship also with some of these African presidents, of which you realize that Raila Amolo Odinga was so much connected to some of these African presidents, because you can see the ease at which he interacts with most of these African presidents. And the factor that Raila Amolo Odinga had on board is age. Faki is now almost 69 years old. Raila Amolo Odinga is coming in at 80 to come and occupy the seat. That is a factor that is really significant here, because we need a younger person, not an older person, to occupy a position that has been left by a younger person. Another factor that Raila Amolo Odinga had to consider, it is the issue to do with the allies of Africa to the eastern and western nations. What do I mean by this? In Africa, we have countries that are allied to western countries, including the NATO group, and there are those that are pro-east, like now Russia and China. So those groups are in Africa. Those groups are in Africa, and they are going to vote. Most of them are going to vote in February. So these are significant factors that Raila Amolo Odinga had to consider before he settled actually on the AUC seat. But now, there are so many things that occurred that William Ruto and Kenya were doing, which were not so good, that could not have favored Raila Amolo Odinga in the AU seat. And I did an extensive analysis on this. Some of these things include William Ruto's presentation as the African leader. We also, in most of the occasions, William Ruto going to huge platforms, speaking on behalf of Africa, where he was branding himself as an African leader, as the favorite of Africa. And this kind of a presentation was not auguring well with some of the leaders in Africa, actually majority. Because Ruto appeared that is the one who has come in town, who now knows more than those who have been there, and that is the best person to speak on behalf of Africa. As a result, we saw William Ruto making several journeys to the West, being given huge platforms to speak. And every time he speaks, he wants to show Africa that is the best. To be honestly speaking, this did not augur well with most of the African leaders. We also saw how William Ruto was accorded a state visit to the United States of America, something that led to William Ruto hiring a chop of 200 million shillings to take him to the US and back, spending taxpayers' money carelessly. So when this happened, William Ruto was still projecting himself as the African leader, as the favorite of Africa. The worst thing is that it was allied towards the West alone. And this resulted to some of the African countries who were not interested in the American policies, who didn't want America, to feel like this gentleman will not give us a good candidate, that is Raila Amolo Odinga. Will not support Kenya because they think they know. They think they know. But now, as we speak, William Ruto has adjusted his form of operation. The several journeys he was making outside the country has reduced. They have reduced significantly. Ruto never used to finish a month without traveling to Europe, without traveling to the American countries, without going to Asian countries. Ruto could make an average of almost 2 actually journeys in every month. And that was very expensive, and that was not going well with Kenyans. So we realized that as we speak now, William Ruto has avoided platforms where he could speak on behalf of Africa, brand himself as the best in Africa. And as a result, the tone of Africa, the mood has completely changed when it comes to those who used to perceive William Ruto as pro-West. It has changed completely. Why did William Ruto do this? He did this to win the hearts of those who are pro-East, to enable Raila Odinga get a higher ground when going to face the Djiboutian candidate. Because now those that were pro-East, who are feeling like William Ruto bringing a candidate from the West, this is a Western country, a Western region, and this, in simple terms, these are Western nations who are bringing on Raila Odinga. So he has avoided them to simply leave Raila Odinga to be a brand of his own, not to be branded as a Western country, as a Western puppet. Because being branded as a Western puppet, it's going to affect the reasoning of most of these Africans when it comes to voting on the ballot. And that's what Raila Odinga has to ensure that he has avoided. And therefore, he advised William Ruto, avoid traveling abroad and avoid speaking on behalf of Africa, and also avoid actually talking back at some of these leaders, particularly who come from the eastern side. So when William Ruto stopped that, we are seeing now Raila Odinga progressing to other parts of this nation, this continent, some parts that were also considered to be pro-East. Another thing that William Ruto has done so far, it is also to ensure that at least abductions have gone down. You know, abductions send a very serious message to the African continent leaders, because when abductions occur in the country, it's made viral by Kenyans. It creates a bad image of Raila Odinga and William Ruto in this African continent. Because people feel like if you cannot manage abductions, if you are abducting people, what is Raila Odinga bringing on board? The same abductions? Extrajudicial killings? If you listen, there's a statement that was made by Julius Malema. He said that because of the extrajudicial killings in Kenya and abductions that are happening, Raila Odinga should be disqualified from being an AUC chairperson. That was very clear that these things that were happening locally were affecting Raila Odinga's candidature across the continent and even across the world. Because we even had the United States of America raising an alarm as far as the abductions that were occurring in the country are concerned. And actually this one is one of the things that resulted in William Ruto now instructing his men to avoid abducting Kenyans and killing them. I don't know what is your take as far as Raila Odinga is concerned, but do you think that is going to win the seat? Let me see on the comment section. Interact with me, because that is the best way you can always learn. My name is Abel Mukwa. Thank you so much for those who are supporting the channel. See you next time for more videos.